don't like 47. I didn't vote for him. But I think the H1-B visa thing is actually a good move. And in fact, I actually think the H1-B visa should probably be eliminated altogether. And I'm going to explain why. And I think this is one of those things where we need to have a more nuanced conversation when it comes to immigration in this country, because there are things that Democrats don't want to touch because it's so averse to what a lot of people on the left feel. Because I think a lot of people on the left are not really considering the consequences of a lot of the policies that are implemented, and also falling victim to the propaganda around it. So the thing with H-1B visas is that it's supposed to fill a need where Americans don't have the skills to do the job, right? Americans are supposed to get first dibs on jobs in America. And if an American can't fill the role, then they're going to give it to an H-1B, right? To an H-1B visa. Here's the thing. A lot of the messaging we've received about Americans not being qualified for these jobs, it's a lie. If you do the research, you will find that we have more than enough people who are qualified to do these tech jobs, nursing jobs, all these different jobs that H-1B visas are taking. There are plenty of Americans that can do these jobs. And the thing is, really, like, think further, think about the big picture. Americans are in an insane amount of debt from going to universities in this country. A lot of people come from their countries to get university educations here because they'll do better when they go back to their country. Okay, people come here to train for sports because they'll do better in sports when they join the teams in their countries. So if there's so many universities here that people from all over the world are coming to so that they can receive the education they need to do better in their country. And in fact, there's a problem with a lot of countries sending people here and having them spy and steal information and research from American universities, which they then use in their countries. Did you see how many countries when the government started defunding all of these different research projects, did you see how many countries jumped at hiring all these American researchers? Why do you think that is? We, as taxpayers, publicly fund all of this research that these universities have. And then it's given to these corporations and they sell it back to us. Like, for example, medication, right? So a lot of what's going on in the universities, a lot of the information, the knowledge, the innovation, it's not really being implemented in the US, but everyone else is benefiting from it. Okay, that's one. The other thing is that people are coming here to get that because they want it. They want all of the research and the information we have and the education we have here. And then somehow Americans are not qualified. Americans that are in a ton of debt are not qualified to do these jobs. So they're going to give it to people who don't have any university debt. No, the reality is that the government has been trying to get rid of the middle class. They don't want to give Americans the benefits and all of the, the high salaries and all these things they would need to give them to have a good quality of life. So it's easier to say we don't have qualified people. We need to hire people from another country. And then these people come here and they want to get citizenship. So they're not going to complain. They're not going to demand as much. I believe a lot of them are not even paid as well. Right. And then add to that the fact that you should really talk to people who have worked with people who have H-1B visas. I've seen nurses talk about how they work in a hospital. And there are a lot of H-1B visa nurses and they get in, they don't like Americans, so they bully them out of the job so that they can get more of their own in. So this is something that, I know it's uncomfortable to talk about, but this is part of the reason why Democrats are losing and why the left is losing, because you're not willing to have these conversations about the reality of how immigration has been weaponized. This is just one way that immigration has been weaponized against Americans. There are a lot of other ways. And the thing is, when I've had these conversations with immigrants, they often agree with me. But if I try to have the conversation with Americans, like first gen or like longer, that have been in this country, born in this country far longer, y'all don't want to hear it. Immigrants know what I'm talking about. But for some reason, a lot of like left-leaning Americans don't want to hear it, don't want to believe it. And I think it's because it challenges this idea that you're a good person and that you would never harm people. And I've even heard a lot of people on the left say, well, we allow these policies because even though it has all these consequences, we don't want anyone that is deserving not to be able to get into the country. But that's not a good way to think. That's harmful. You can't harm American citizens to benefit someone else like that. No, not at all, ever. That shouldn't be a thing. And so anyway, that's my opinion on the whole H-1B visa thing. I know some people are not going to like to hear that, but it's the reality. And the fact is that if Democrats had been more willing to approach these topics with more nuance and in a more level-headed way and in a way that wasn't causing so much harm to Americans, maybe we wouldn't have what's going on right now. And there are a lot of different topics, a lot of different political issues that should be addressed with more nuance and should have higher standards. in order for Democrats to win. And immigration is one of them in more ways than one, honestly, because the other thing is when they were talking about, a lot of the people that are getting into the country are criminals. Listen, I've seen some of the news stories and some of the people they've picked up. And then when you look into it, you're like, how is this person still in the country? That dude that decapitated a man recently had like a rap sheet. A few of these guys that have been deported out of the country, when you look into their past, they had some kind of issues too. And it's like, why don't we have a higher standard? Why don't we have a higher standard? I mean, we can either talk about it or we can keep losing.